Being You by Anil Seth. The mystery of being you. Have you ever stopped to wonder what it really means to be you? Not just the surface-level thoughts that run through your mind or the choices you make, but the very essence of your consciousness. It's something most people take for granted. You wake up, look around, and assume that the world you see is exactly as it is. But what if reality is not as straightforward as it seems? What if everything you experience is actually a construction of your brain? This is the mind-bending idea at the heart of Being You by Anil Seth. As a neuroscientist, Seth doesn't just explore what consciousness is in a philosophical sense. He approaches it scientifically, breaking down how the brain generates reality, why emotions shape the way we perceive the world, and what it even means to have a sense of self. This book is an invitation to explore the deepest mystery of all, the mystery of being alive, aware, and conscious. This journey into the mind will challenge some of the most basic assumptions about reality. Are you really seeing the world as it is? Is your sense of self a stable entity? Or is it something your brain is continuously constructing? And if our experiences of reality are a kind of controlled hallucination, then what does that mean for the way we live our lives? These questions might sound abstract, but understanding them can change the way we think about everything, from our emotions to artificial intelligence to our very sense of identity. How reality is a hallucination. The human brain is not a passive receiver of information. It does not simply take in the world as it is. Instead, it actively predicts and constructs reality based on past experiences and incoming sensory information. This is one of the most crucial ideas in Being You, that what we experience as reality is, in fact, a kind of hallucination that our brain refines through constant updates. Imagine looking at an apple. You don't just see the apple in real time. Your brain is actually predicting redness, roundness, and appleness before the sensory data from your eyes even fully registers. The brain makes an educated guess about what it expects to see and then adjusts its perception if necessary. Most of the time, these predictions are correct, so we don't notice what's happening. But when they go wrong, we experience optical illusions, false memories, or even hallucinations. A fascinating experiment that demonstrates this process is the rubber hand illusion. In this experiment, a person sits with one hand hidden from view while a fake rubber hand is placed in front of them. If the real hand and the rubber hand are stroked at the same time, the person starts to feel as if the rubber hand is their own. This simple trick reveals something profound. The brain is not just taking in reality, it is actively constructing a sense of what is and isn't part of our own body. This raises an unsettling question. If the brain can be fooled so easily into believing that a rubber hand is real, then how much of what we consider ourselves is actually just a perception? If our brains are constantly making predictions about the world, how much of what we think is reality is actually just a best guess? The illusion of self. One of the most thought-provoking ideas in the book is that our sense of self is not as solid as we like to believe. Most people assume they have a stable, continuous identity, that the person they were 5 years ago is fundamentally the same as the person they are today. But neuroscientific research suggests otherwise. The brain does not contain a single, unified self. Instead, what we experience as I is made up of multiple overlapping processes that create a sense of continuity. There is the bodily self, which gives us the sensation of having a physical form. There is the narrative self, which is the ongoing story we tell ourselves about who we are. Then there is the social self, which is shaped by how others see us and how we interact with the world. These different aspects of the self are constantly shifting. A person who suffers brain damage, for example, might wake up with a completely different personality. Someone who undergoes a deep personal transformation may no longer feel like the same person they were before. Yet, despite all these changes, the brain keeps creating the illusion of a stable identity. This challenges the way we normally think about ourselves. If the self is just a construction, then who are we really? Is there a true you at all? Or are we just the sum of our changing perceptions, emotions, and experiences? These questions might seem unsettling, but they can also be liberating. If the self is not fixed, then we have more control over who we become than we might have realized. How emotions shape reality. Many people think of perception as a purely sensory process, seeing, hearing, and feeling the world as it is. But in reality, emotions play a huge role in shaping what we perceive. The way you feel at any given moment can change how you experience the world. If you're anxious, a neutral face might seem unfriendly or threatening. If you're happy, the same face might appear warm and inviting. The world doesn't change, your emotional state does. This happens because the brain doesn't just process external information. It also monitors the state of the body, tracking things like heart rate, energy levels, and stress levels. Seth describes this as the body budget, the brain's way of managing its resources to keep us alive and functioning. When the body is in a state of balance, we feel good. When it's under threat, whether real or perceived, our emotions shift accordingly. This understanding of perception challenges the idea that we can ever see reality completely objectively. Our moods, expectations, and bodily states are always influencing what we see, hear, and feel. Recognizing this can help us understand why people experience the same events in very different ways. It also suggests that by managing our emotions and bodily state, we can actually change the way we perceive the world. Can AI ever be conscious? With the rapid development of artificial intelligence, a question that often comes up is whether machines could ever be truly conscious. Many AI systems can now process vast amounts of data, recognize speech, and even mimic human-like conversation. But does that mean they are conscious in the same way we are? Seth argues that true consciousness is not just about processing information. It is deeply tied to having a body, emotions, and a sense of survival. AI, no matter how advanced, does not have a physical body that it needs to protect. It does not feel hunger, pain, or fear. Without these fundamental experiences, it may never be able to develop the kind of self-awareness that humans have. While AI might be able to simulate intelligence, it lacks the deeper, embodied experience of being alive. This suggests that consciousness is not just a function of complex computation. It is something deeply connected to our physical existence. Understanding this distinction is crucial as AI continues to evolve. Final thoughts: what it means to be you. Being You is not just a book about neuroscience. It is a book about what it means to be human. It challenges many of the assumptions we have about reality, the self, and perception. The brain does not passively experience the world. It actively constructs it. The self is not a fixed entity but a collection of processes that change over time. Our emotions do not just reflect reality, they shape it. Perhaps the most important takeaway from the book is that understanding these ideas gives us more control over our own lives. If our perceptions, emotions, and sense of self are all constructed, then we have the power to shape them in ways that serve us better. Instead of being passive observers of reality, we can become active participants in shaping how we experience the world. In the end, to be conscious is to be constantly changing, predicting, and adapting. There is no fixed you, only the ongoing, ever-evolving experience of being you. Stay tuned for more enlightening content. Head over to www.mybooksummary.com. Don't forget to subscribe and share the magic with friends. And let's grow together through the power of books and interesting stories.